Sarah Martinez had always been different from other kids in her small Texas town. While her classmates dreamed of becoming teachers or nurses, she spent her afternoons reading military history books and practicing push-ups in her backyard. Her father, a retired Marine, had filled her childhood with stories of honor, duty, and service to country. When she turned 18, there was never any question about what she would do next. The recruitment office smelled like coffee and cleaning supplies when Sarah walked in that Tuesday morning. Sergeant Williams, a stern-faced woman with graying hair, looked up from her paperwork and sized up the nervous teenager standing before her. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she filled out the forms, but her voice was steady when she declared her intention to serve. "Why the military, Martinez?" Sergeant Williams asked, leaning back in her chair. Sarah straightened her shoulders. "I want to make a difference. I want to protect people who can't protect themselves." The older woman nodded approvingly. "The military isn't a game, kid. It's going to test every part of you, your body, your mind, your spirit. You sure you're ready for that?" Without hesitation, Sarah replied, "Yes, ma'am." 6 months later, Sarah found herself at Fort Benning, Georgia, for basic training. The first few weeks were brutal. The drill sergeants seemed determined to break down every recruit, rebuilding them into soldiers. Sarah pushed herself harder than anyone else, earning respect from her fellow trainees and grudging approval from her instructors. It was during her 3rd week that she first met Lieutenant Colonel Rebecca Hayes. The commanding officer was inspecting the barracks when she stopped at Sarah's bunk. Everything was perfectly arranged, bed made with hospital corners, gear stowed according to regulations, boots polished to mirror shine. "Outstanding work, Private Martinez," Hayes said, her voice carrying the authority of 20 years of service. "Keep this up." Sarah felt a surge of pride. Making a good impression on the base leader was something every recruit hoped for, but few achieved. She had worked tirelessly to earn this moment of recognition. As training progressed, Sarah excelled in every area. Her marksmanship scores were among the highest in her class. She could complete the obstacle course faster than most of the male recruits. Her leadership potential became evident during group exercises, where other trainees naturally looked to her for guidance. But it was her unwavering moral compass that truly set her apart. When Private Johnson was caught cheating on a written exam, most recruits would have looked the other way. Sarah couldn't. She reported the incident, knowing it would make her unpopular with some of her peers. When confronted about her decision, she simply said, "We swore an oath. That has to mean something." Lieutenant Colonel Hayes heard about the incident. She made a note in Sarah's file. "Exceptional integrity. Natural leader. Recommend for advanced training opportunities." The weeks turned into months, and Sarah's reputation grew. She helped struggling recruits with their studies, organized study groups for difficult subjects, and never complained about extra duties. Her fellow soldiers began to see her as someone they could trust completely. One evening, after a particularly challenging day of field exercises, Sarah was cleaning her rifle when Private Anderson approached her. He was a quiet kid from Ohio who had been having trouble keeping up with the physical demands of training. "Martinez, can I ask you something?" he said nervously. "Sure, Anderson. What's on your mind? How do you do it? How do you stay so strong? I mean, not just physically, but mentally. You never seem to doubt yourself." Sarah paused her cleaning and looked at him thoughtfully. "I think about why I'm here. Every morning when I wake up, I remember that somewhere out there are people who need protecting. That gives me strength." Anderson nodded slowly. "I wish I had that kind of certainty." "You do," Sarah said firmly. "You just haven't found it yet. But you will." That conversation stayed with Sarah as she continued her training. She began to understand that being a soldier wasn't just about following orders or being tough. It was about being someone others could count on, even in the darkest moments. Her reputation for reliability and integrity caught the attention of more senior officers. Captain Rodriguez, who oversaw advanced tactical training, specifically requested Sarah for his elite program. She was one of only 12 recruits selected from a class of over 200. The advanced program was even more demanding than basic training. The exercises were more complex, the standards higher, and the pressure intense. Sarah thrived in this environment, consistently ranking at the top of her class in both written and practical examinations. It was during this time that she first heard whispers about a special assignment, something involving military intelligence and overseas deployment. The details were classified, but the opportunity was exactly what Sarah had been preparing for, a chance to serve at the highest level and make a real difference. Lieutenant Colonel Hayes called Sarah to her office on a Friday afternoon. The office was sparse but organized, with commendations and unit photos covering one wall. Hayes gestured for Sarah to sit, then studied her for a long moment. "Private Martinez, your instructors have been very impressed with your progress. Your scores are exceptional, your leadership qualities are evident, and your character is beyond reproach." Sarah felt her heart racing but kept her expression neutral. "Thank you, ma'am. I'm recommending you for a special intelligence program. It's highly classified work that would require additional training and a significant commitment. Are you interested?" This was the moment Sarah had dreamed of since joining the military. The chance to serve in intelligence work, to be trusted with important missions, to really make a difference in protecting her country. "Yes, ma'am. Absolutely." Hayes nodded and pulled out a thick folder from her desk drawer. "Good. The program begins in 3 weeks. You'll need to maintain complete secrecy about this assignment. Not even your family can know the details." As Sarah left the office, she felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. This was her big break, the opportunity she had worked so hard to earn. She had no idea that in just a few weeks, everything she thought she knew about her life would change forever. The intelligence program was unlike anything she had experienced. The training was conducted at a classified facility, and the other recruits were equally exceptional. They learned advanced surveillance techniques, code breaking, and how to operate in hostile environments. Sarah excelled in every aspect of the training. Her instructors noted her natural aptitude for intelligence work and her ability to remain calm under pressure. She was particularly skilled at reading people and situations, a talent that would prove invaluable in the field. As graduation approached, Sarah felt ready for whatever assignment awaited her. She had proven herself at every level, earned the respect of her superiors, and demonstrated unwavering loyalty to her country. She believed she was prepared for anything the military could ask of her. She had no way of knowing that her past was about to collide with her future in ways that would challenge everything she believed about herself and her place in the world. The assignment came on a Tuesday morning. Sarah was to be deployed to a joint military base in Eastern Europe, working undercover to gather intelligence on suspected weapons trafficking. She would be posing as a cultural exchange coordinator, giving her access to various international contacts while maintaining her cover. The mission briefing took place in a windowless room with 3 senior intelligence officers. Colonel Patricia Webb, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, led the presentation. Maps, photographs, and classified documents covered every surface. "Your cover identity has been carefully crafted, Martinez," Colonel Webb explained. "You'll be Sarah Mitchell, a graduate student in international relations working on a cultural exchange program. Your real mission is to identify and track a network we believe is smuggling weapons through diplomatic channels." Sarah studied the materials carefully. The operation was complex, requiring her to maintain relationships with diplomats, cultural attaches, and local officials while secretly gathering intelligence. It was exactly the kind of challenging assignment she had trained for. "What's my timeline, ma'am?" 6 months minimum, possibly longer depending on what you discover. This is patient work, Martinez. No rushing, no unnecessary risks. Your safety and your cover are the top priorities. 2 weeks later, Sarah found herself on a military transport plane heading across the Atlantic. She had said goodbye to her family, telling them only that she was being assigned to work in international relations. Her mother had cried, her father had saluted her, and her younger brother had made her promise to write letters. The base in Eastern Europe was smaller than Fort Benning, but more diverse. American, British, German, and local personnel worked together in an atmosphere of professional cooperation. Sarah's cover story placed her in the civilian administrative section, where she had an office and official duties to maintain her appearance as a legitimate cultural coordinator. Her handler, Agent David Chun, was a veteran intelligence officer who had been working in the region for 3 years. He briefed her on the local situation during her first week. "The weapons network is sophisticated," he explained during a seemingly casual coffee meeting in town. "They're using cultural events, diplomatic pouches, and legitimate business transactions to move hardware. We need someone on the inside who can observe without raising suspicion. Sarah threw herself into her cover role with characteristic dedication. She organized cultural exchanges, planned international festivals, and built genuine relationships with local officials. Her natural charm and intelligence made her popular among the diplomatic community, giving her access to exactly the information she needed. Within a month, she had identified several suspicious patterns. Certain diplomatic events coincided with unusual shipping activity. Some cultural attaches had backgrounds that didn't match their current roles. Small details that individually meant nothing, but together painted a concerning picture. Her reports impressed her superiors. Agent Shin told her she had a natural talent for intelligence work, able to see connections that others missed. The operation was progressing better than anyone had hoped. It was during her third month that Sarah first noticed she was being watched. Nothing obvious, just the same faces appearing in different locations, cars that seemed to follow her route to work. Her training kicked in, and she varied her schedule, took different routes, and observed carefully. Agent Chun confirmed her suspicions during their next meeting. "You're right. Someone is interested in you. We're not sure who yet, but stay alert and don't deviate from your normal routine too much. We don't want to tip them off that we know." The surveillance added tension to an already stressful situation. Sarah had to maintain her cover while gathering intelligence, all while knowing that unfriendly eyes were watching her every move. She handled the pressure well, but it took its toll. Her breakthrough came at a reception for visiting German officials. Sarah was working the room, making conversation and observing interactions, when she overheard a conversation between two men speaking in Russian. Her language training allowed her to understand enough to realize they were discussing a shipment scheduled for the following week. She memorized every detail and reported back to Agent Chun immediately. Within hours, the information had been verified through other sources. The weapons network was planning their largest operation yet, using the German cultural exchange as cover for moving a significant amount of military hardware. The decision was made to intercept the shipment. Sarah's role would be crucial. She needed to be at the exchange event to provide real-time intelligence while the military operation unfolded in the background. It was dangerous, but it was why she was there. The night before the operation, Sarah couldn't sleep. She reviewed every detail of her mission, checked and rechecked her equipment, and tried to calm her nerves. This was what she had trained for, but the reality of being in actual danger was different from any simulation. The German cultural exchange was held at a historic hotel in the city center. Sarah arrived early, dressed in her role as the coordinating official. She wore a traditional outfit from her home state of Texas, a gesture meant to represent American culture at the international event. The outfit was beautiful, with intricate embroidery and meaningful details that told the story of her heritage. As the evening progressed, Sarah moved through the crowd, maintaining her cover while watching for the signals that would indicate the weapons transfer was beginning. The atmosphere was festive, with music, dancing, and cultural presentations from various countries. It was nearly midnight when things began to go wrong. Sarah spotted the Russian contacts from the earlier conversation, but they seemed agitated, speaking urgently into phones and checking their watches repeatedly. Something had changed about their plans. Before she could signal Agent Chen, two security guards approached her. They were local police, but something about their demeanor set off alarm bells. "Miss Mitchell, we need to speak with you," one of them said in accented English. Sarah's training told her to remain calm and maintain her cover. "Of course. Is there a problem?" "There has been a security concern raised about some of the guests. We need to conduct additional screening procedures." They escorted her to a small office in the hotel's administrative area. Sarah's heart raced, but she kept her expression neutral. If her cover was blown, she needed to find a way to warn her team without compromising the entire operation. "We need you to remove the outfit you're wearing," the second guard said. Security protocols require additional screening of all traditional clothing. Sarah's mind raced. This wasn't standard procedure, and the timing was too coincidental. But refusing would definitely blow her cover and possibly endanger the mission. She had to think of a way to stall. "I understand your concern," she said carefully, "but this outfit has cultural significance. Is there perhaps a female officer who could assist with this process? I would be more comfortable with a woman present. The guards exchanged glances. The first one spoke into his radio in the local language, requesting a female officer. Sarah used the delay to assess her situation and look for potential escape routes. As they waited, Sarah heard footsteps in the corridor outside. Multiple people were approaching, and their voices carried the authority of senior officials. Her heart sank. If this was a larger security sweep, her mission was definitely compromised. The door opened, and Lieutenant Colonel Hayes walked in, wearing her dress uniform and accompanied by several other military officials. Sarah's eyes widened in shock. Her commanding officer was supposed to be back at Fort Benning, thousands of miles away. What seems to be the problem here? Hayes demanded, her voice carrying the unmistakable authority of a senior American military officer. The local guards suddenly looked uncertain. Whatever they had planned clearly hadn't accounted for the presence of a high-ranking American officer. Sarah remained silent, unsure whether Hayes's appearance was part of the operation or something else entirely. Hayes turned to look directly at Sarah, and, for a moment, her expression was unreadable. Then, something shifted in her eyes, a recognition that went beyond their previous military relationship. "Private Martinez," she said quietly, "I think we need to talk." The local guard stepped back as Lieutenant Colonel Hayes entered the room with unmistakable authority. Her presence immediately shifted the entire dynamic, and Sarah could see uncertainty creeping into the guards' expressions. Whatever they had planned clearly hadn't accounted for a senior American military officer arriving on the scene. "I'll handle this situation from here," Hayes told the guards firmly. "This woman is under American military protection." The guards hesitated, clearly unsure of their authority in this new situation. The first guard spoke rapidly into his radio, presumably seeking guidance from his superiors. Hayes waited patiently, her stance radiating the confidence of someone accustomed to being obeyed. After several minutes of radio conversation, the guards reluctantly left the room. Hayes waited until their footsteps faded down the corridor before turning her attention fully to Sarah. "Sarah Martinez," she said, her voice softer now, but still carrying authority. Or should I say, Sarah Mitchell, Cultural Exchange Coordinator? Sarah's mind raced. Her cover was clearly blown, but Hayes's tone suggested this wasn't a hostile confrontation. Still, she maintained her training and kept her expression neutral. "I'm not sure what you mean, ma'am." Hayes smiled slightly, an expression that held both understanding and something else, something that looked almost like recognition mixed with an old sadness. "We can drop the pretense now. I know exactly why you're here, and I know about your mission. But, right now, we have a more immediate problem to solve." She gestured towards Sarah's outfit, the traditional Texas clothing that had supposedly triggered the security concern. Those guards weren't conducting a routine security check. Someone specifically wanted you to remove that outfit. The question is why. Sarah's training told her to remain cautious, but her instincts suggested Hayes was genuinely trying to help. "I don't understand. It's just traditional clothing representing American culture at the exchange." "Is it?" Hayes asked, stepping closer. "Turn around, Sarah." Confused but trusting her commanding officer, Sarah turned slowly. She felt Hayes's fingers gently touch the back of her outfit, tracing along the embroidered pattern that ran down the center. "This embroidery," Hayes said quietly. "Where did you get this specific pattern?" "It was my grandmother's outfit. She gave it to me before she passed away last year. She said it had been in our family for generations." Hayes was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice held an emotion Sarah had never heard from her commanding officer before. "Sarah, I need you to look at me very carefully. Think back to when you were very young, maybe 3 or 4 years old. Do you remember anything unusual about your childhood? Any gaps in your memory?" The question seemed to come from nowhere, but as Sarah searched her memory, she realized there were things that had never quite made sense. Vague memories of different houses, different people who claimed to be relatives, a constant sense of moving from place to place before they settled in Texas. "I remember moving a lot when I was little. My parents said it was because of my father's work, but what? But my father was never in the military then. He didn't enlist until I was 6. Before that, he worked construction, so why would we have moved so much?" Hayes nodded slowly, as if confirming something she already knew. "Sarah, I need to tell you something that's going to be difficult to understand. That outfit you're wearing contains markings that identify you as part of a specific family. Not the Martinez family. A different family entirely. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. What do you mean? What are you talking about? The embroidery pattern on your outfit matches historical records we have of a family that was involved in resistance activities during World War II. They were part of an underground network that helped Allied forces in occupied territory. Hayes paused, studying Sarah's face carefully. After the war, some members of that family came to America under new identities. They scattered across the country for safety, taking new names and creating new lives. Some of them had children who never knew their true heritage. Sarah felt the room spinning around her. Are you saying that my family isn't? I'm saying that the people who raised you love you very much, but they may not be your biological parents. And that outfit you're wearing has attracted attention from people who have been searching for surviving members of that resistance family for decades. The implications crashed over Sarah like a wave. Her entire identity, everything she thought she knew about herself, was suddenly in question. But Hayes wasn't finished. There's more, Sarah. The mark on your back. You've had it since birth, haven't you? A small birthmark shaped like a crescent moon. Sarah's eyes widened. She had indeed always had that birthmark, hidden by her clothing. Her parents had always said it was just a normal birthmark, nothing significant. How do you know about that? Because I've been looking for you for 23 years. The words hung in the air between them. Hayes reached into her uniform jacket and pulled out a small, worn photograph. She handed it to Sarah with trembling hands. The photograph showed a woman holding a baby. The woman looked remarkably like Hayes, but younger. The baby had a distinctive crescent-shaped mark visible on its back. My sister Elena was part of that resistance family. She married a man named Martinez, and they had a daughter. When the family was threatened by people seeking revenge for wartime activities, they made the impossible decision to hide their child with a loving family who could keep her safe. Sarah stared at the photograph, her hands shaking. The baby in the picture was her. The woman holding her was Hayes' sister. Elena died in a car accident when you were 5. Your father, the real Martinez, died 2 years later. But before they died, they made arrangements for you to be cared for by people they trusted completely. The people who became your adoptive parents. But why didn't anyone tell me? Because as long as you didn't know, you were safe. But when you enlisted in the military, when your name started appearing in official records, it triggered alerts. People who had been searching for surviving resistance family members finally had a lead. Hayes gestured toward the door where the guards had been. Those guards weren't working for local security. They were working for an organization that has spent decades hunting down families connected to the wartime resistance. They wanted to see the mark on your back because it would confirm your identity. Sarah felt overwhelmed by the revelation. Her entire life had been built on a foundation that was now revealed to be something completely different. What happens now? Now we make sure you're safe. Your cover here is blown, but that's not the most important thing anymore. What matters is that you understand who you really are and that you have choices about what you want to do with that information. Hayes helped Sarah adjust her outfit, carefully covering the embroidered pattern that had caused so much trouble. The family that raised you loves you as their own daughter. That doesn't change. But you also have a heritage and a legacy that connects you to something larger. Your biological parents were heroes who saved lives during the darkest period in human history. And you're my aunt. I'm your aunt. I joined the military partly hoping that someday, somehow, I might find you. When I saw your name in the recruitment files, and then saw your character and integrity in training, I suspected. But I needed to be sure. They stood together in the small room, the weight of revelation settling between them. Sarah had come to Europe on an intelligence mission, but she was leaving with knowledge that would reshape her understanding of herself and her place in the world. Will you help me understand? Will you tell me about my real parents? Hayes smiled, and for the first time, Sarah could see the family resemblance. I'll tell you everything you want to know. But first, let's get you safely out of here. We have a plane waiting to take you back to the States. As they walked through the hotel corridors together, Sarah reflected on how dramatically her life had changed in the span of a single evening. She had discovered family she never knew existed, learned about a heritage of courage and sacrifice, and found that sometimes the most important missions weren't the ones you planned for. The outfit that had almost caused her exposure had instead led her to the truth about her identity. And the commanding officer she had respected and admired turned out to be the family member who had never stopped searching for her. As they boarded the military transport plane, Hayes handed Sarah another photograph. This one showed a larger group, men, women, and children from the resistance family, smiling despite the dangers they faced. "Your parents," she said, pointing to a young couple in the center of the group, "would be incredibly proud of the woman you've become." Sarah studied the faces of people who shared her blood, her heritage, and her commitment to protecting others. She realized that her drive to serve, her sense of duty, and her moral compass weren't just products of good upbringing. They were legacy traits passed down through generations of people who had risked everything to do what was right. The plane lifted off into the night sky, carrying Sarah toward a future that would honor both the family who had raised her and the family she had just discovered. She was no longer just Private Sarah Martinez. She was the inheritor of a legacy of courage, and she was ready to write the next chapter of that story.